my fish and chips.
Okay, so yeah, fish and chips. All right, so fish and chips is a pretty nice meal. You know, it does have, depending on where you go, might have some mushy peas thrown in there. And these days, obviously, your vegetables are very important to eat as well. So you have, you have your carbs, you have your protein, and you have your vegetables all in one. However, sometimes the way that they're made is quite unhealthy. You know, especially the fish. It can be quite greasy, and the batter on top of it, that's just not very good for your body. Like, you can literally eat the fish without the batter, and it would be probably better for you. On top of that, the chips, although if you have the chunky chips, it is more healthy for you because the area is larger, you know. So then there's less grease going into the chips, so it's a bit healthy that way than if you have the skinny chips. But they're still pretty unhealthy. Because if you think about it, it's just potato. Potato that's been fried in oil, in deep fat fried in oil. So it'd be much better if you just had some sweet potato, maybe even sweet potato fries. But if you had some sweet potato, some fish, and some mushy peas. And you know what? Starting today, actually, I don't know if I want to do anything starting today. That's a big commitment right there. But I think we could make the fish and chips better. I know it's traditional. I know everyone loves it, but it's not that healthy. So why don't we just go for a sweet potato, and then we have some fish. You know, then you can choose any fish you want. It doesn't have to be this haddock or pollock business that they have, or cod that they have in the bloody fish and chip shops. So yeah, and then there's the vegetables. I mean, you can do anything, but I think mushy peas are pretty good, to be fair. Especially in this area of Kingston, where they have minty mushy peas. I quite like those. So yeah, we could do that. But yeah, no, I used to have a good friend of mine who was very much into fish and chips. Well, actually, I'm not sure how much she was into fish and chips, but her family were definitely into fish and chips. But then actually, I don't know how much their family was into fish and chips. Basically, they owned a fish and chip shop, basically, on the high street of near where I used to live, in Corkrook. So I'd go in there, and actually she would get my friend who worked there as well, who was the daughter of the owners. She would go in there and she would get the nickname of Chippy Girl. Chippy Girl. Not sure how much I would like to be called Chippy Boy, but yes, I would go in there and she'd be like, "Oh, hi Joe." Her name was Simran, and she did a good job. But she told me that her dad didn't used to pay her very much, because when you're part of a family business, it's a bit complicated, because they kind of brought you into this world and they've done so much for you. So sometimes it's like, it's good to give back without getting money. So it can be a bit complicated with that. But she said that her dad owed her loads of money. But yeah, they actually moved on to open a chippy in where was it? It was Lancashire, pretty sure. Yeah, but no, I think I've had some good experiences with fish and chips over the years. Yeah, I actually, with Simran, I made very good friends with her. I think her diet wasn't very good though. You know, when you have, like, imagine I had a fish and chip shop in the bottom of my house. Now, what is the likelihood that I just start eating way more fish and chips? And the likelihood is a lot more. You know, if you don't have a meal to eat, if you don't have a plan for the meal tonight, it's like, oh, well, we have a chippy downstairs. We literally have leftover fish and chips. So you're like, all right, we'll just eat that. So that's the thing for me, you know. I don't envy that position. You know, it's good to have a business and everything, but having food like that just always open to you is, don't think, the best idea. And also, if you do own a chippy, make sure that all the letters are showing on the front of the shop, because they were missing a Y. Why? I don't know. But yeah, also on the topic of fish and chips, I'm kind of running out of things to say, but fish and chips is amazing. And what my family used to think is the most amazing fish and chips was these ones that were in Darlington. And the shop in question was on a street called Bartlett Street. So my family called it, it's called Bartlett Street Fish and Chip Shop. So whenever they were referring to it, they were like, oh, Bartlett Street Fish and Chips. And they were like, Bartlett Street Fish and Chips is the dog's bollocks, is the best. And I was just, I tried it a few times and I didn't think it was above anything else really. I was just like, what makes it so special? But they bloody loved it. They absolutely loved it, and they just raved about it. Even when we were back in Newcastle, which is an hour away from the fish and chip shop, whenever the topic came about fish and chips, they'd be like, oh, Bartlett Street's the best, Bartlett Street's the best, Bartlett Street's clear from all the rest, that rhymed. And I would just be like, what makes it so special? You know, because there are some good places in Newcastle. There was Fenham Fish and Chip Bar, which we used to go to. Actually quite expensive when I think about it. You know, over the years, we'd probably get it once a week or something. I used to really love it. We'd do it quite a lot. But now that I look back on it, you know, it was an expensive meal, and I didn't have the knowledge of what was healthy to eat back then. I didn't know what was really good for you. So, yeah, we used to have it about once a week, and I used to think, oh, you know, it's good, it's got the protein in, and stuff like that. We just used to have it, just because it was the norm, just because the culture did it, the culture of the UK, we do that sort of thing. Honestly, when I think back on those days, I'm thinking, you know, I could have spent 1/3 of the money, maybe even more, 1/4 of the money that I spent on fish and chips, and just bought some tins of mackerel and some rice like I do nowadays, and it's way cheaper, So, yeah, I'd like to.
Why are we against?
Be good to educate the masses of the UK on what is good to put in your body. You know, going on to other types of food, like if we talk about cereal, yeah. Lots of people love cereal, but lots of people have cereal just because their dads had cereal, and their dads had cereal, and their grandfather had. I don't know if it goes that far back, but they just do it because it's the norm, because you see it on the adverts, and they're like, cereal. So breakfast is just seen as cereal and pancakes and all these items. But when you strip away the breakfast and you look at what you're eating, you're like, why am I eating this? What benefits does this have to my body? Why am I eating this? You know, the tradition, we have these traditional breakfast meals, these traditional lunch meals, and these traditional dinner meals that we have. You know, for lunch it's sandwiches. For dinner, then we go all out. But dinner, you know, is, you know, maybe sometimes we have a bit too much for something like breakfast, but for dinner, the sort of things that we eat there is way healthier. The sort of things that we have in those meals is way better for you. So if you just take those things, add them into the other meals, will we not have a way better rounded diet? And I think the answer is yes. And my friend Ben brought me onto this idea quite nicely. In fact, I mean, I've brought myself onto it with just questioning. One day I was just like, why am I eating this? So look at the ingredients, lots of sugar in cereal. Just like, what am I eating? But my friend Ben was basically eating leftovers from the night before as breakfast. So I'd be staying at his house, and he'd just whip up a bit of the leftover chicken and potatoes that from the night before, just stick it on the pan, blah, blah, blah. Bit of eggs, stick on a bit of eggs in there. Then he would dish me up a plate of all this food, and I'd be like, wow, this is way healthier, getting what my body needs and not having the insulin spike of the sugar in the morning, which is what you don't want. And, you know, I'm giving my body what it needs, especially if you're somebody who's into the gym, into working out, giving your body what it needs, and you're using breakfast as another opportunity to fuel your body with that good stuff so that it repairs, so that it gets stronger, rather than do the opposite, rather than making you fat, rather than making you a bit sluggish in the morning. So, fish and chips is all right on the off chance, but in general, just, you know, go to the supermarket, pick out the ingredients that you want. Yeah, it might take a bit longer, but if you buy it in batch, it's way cheaper. And you can do what my friend Ben did and cook it the night before, cook a big batch, have it for breakfast, have it for lunch. Then you're absolutely sorted, you're stronger. It's just, it's the way to go. But minty mushy peas is a yes, bish bash bosh, Bobby Dazzler from me. So thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next one. A bosh.